Hello, this is Kyou of Kyou System. I was originally going to try and talk about collage art and the like in this episode, and I still do want to talk about it at some point because it's something that I feel doesn't get a lot of attention, especially in terms of digital art and just art in general. It doesn't get a lot of love, it seems like, which is a shame, but that's something that I tried a few times to a few different takes of trying to talk about it, and I kept getting distracted. I wasn't able to focus on talking about it for whatever reason. I was just, I guess, preoccupied, for lack of a better word. I've been reading a lot about, well, how do I put this? I've been reading a lot of this personal essay. Um, I won't say who wrote it, but I've been reading this very long personal essay talking about. Um, I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to go into the details because it's, well, yeah, but and just reading about it and then thinking about everything that has happened to them, everything that has happened to me, everything that has happened to another friend of mine, a mutual friend of this person who is very close with them, and just reflecting on that has been very sobering. And I don't, I don't really know. I still have probably more than halfway of it to read. It's very, very long. So I'm sure there's plenty more food for thought than there already is. But I just thinking about trying to make friends with people, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all need, to some extent or another, a social connection with others and a meaningful social connections, that is to say. And I mean, there are extreme exceptions, people who are schizoid, such as it is, or people who are monks living in isolation. But for the great mass of humanity, you know, you get the idea. And the thing with it is that there is a lot of. There's not really a polite way to say it, so I'll just say it. There is a lot of riffraff out there. The sort who, as one of my friends described it, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Who have no real respect for boundaries, have no real consideration for your feelings, and they sort of just. I mean, if you set hard boundaries and you draw that line and you enforce it hard, then yeah, you can push them back, and doing that is hard for a lot of people. So and I can, for me, when I was much younger, I had a lot of trouble with this riffraff, as I call them, because I did not set boundaries. I did not have. I was a doormat, effectively. So they walked all over me, took everything they could get from me, etc., etc. And it's unfortunate. I'm not saying this is like a pity party kind of thing. It's just, and it's not even that. I mean, reading this essay has reminded me of it, but it's not like, just, oh, I feel bad from this reflection on my past. It's like, no, it's not like that. Is nowadays is not really an issue for me. I guess at some point along the way, I'm not really sure when this transition happened, but I guess I feel like I've become somewhat intimidating, or perhaps hard to approach in any case. So I feel like now because I guess I've gotten to where I'm vastly less afraid to express negativity in communications with people, or vastly more comfortable voicing my discontent, voicing when I'm upset, drawing and enforcing boundaries and the like. Which is another thing that this essay has talked a little bit about and has made some very interesting points. And so nowadays, I guess if I'm this intimidating kind of person, sometimes I wonder if that actually is true, if it's just in my imagination or what. But that seems to be the case to some extent or another, in one way or another. And it's like I don't have to deal with this problem anymore. So that's nice. But the result now is that I am, there's this isolation that results from it. But that's another topic for another day. Um, the point I guess I'm trying to get at is just thinking about how difficult it is to find meaningful connections with other people, how just very isolated and socially atomized everything is. But not even just, because I could go on at length about, oh well, people have to use social media to interact, and social media has become very isolating and atomizing, blah blah blah. And there's truth to that, but that's irrelevant to what I'm talking about. It's just thinking about when you have been so profoundly changed by something. Speaking in terms of things like trauma, extensive psychological trauma, and I was talking with a friend about this a while ago, and the comparison, the analogy that we kind of came to mind was like a dark enlightenment kind of thing, where you become aware of like this different level of existence, or this different kind of your perspective, or your scope of the full breadth of what can happen, what life is like, what things, what's actually going on in the world, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, is broadened. But it's not in the sort of way where it's, you achieve some kind of profound oneness with everything, as the term enlightenment would normally suggest, but rather it's something closer to like, you see just how fragile a lot of things are. You see how hollow a lot of things are. Like, when you go through all sorts of, like, when you are an abuse survivor, it becomes very easy to see just how fragile things like relationships are, or when you have been, like, if you were a victim of neglect, or someone who has been just something of a social outcast. You've been rejected by everyone, pushed away from, like, you have friends who just abandoned you, turned on you, whatever, and you end up you have a lot more time to kind of look at a distance, and because normally you're warmed up to a lot of, I guess, what would normally be the normal societal fixtures, things like, oh, job and a good college and a, family home, the white picket fence, and work until you're 65, all the American dream, or not even just that, but even a lot of things that are just like popular culture, things like that. You end up very insulated from a lot of it, because you don't you don't have any friends to talk to you about it. You don't have any friends to kind of drag you along into it. Like, my experience has been largely sort of fumbling around in the dark, trying to find my way forward, and eventually I did. But the end result is that now I look out at things like, a lot of more mainstream type content, a lot of more like looking at my day job, right? I look at it's like a lot of people are married to their jobs, a lot, like, whether at the company where I work or just in general, a lot of people are not necessarily, like, some of them are just workaholics and they're just there for money, and that's one thing. But the whole notion of being a career person, and like that has always felt very empty to me, very hollow. It's just like, okay, you're just doing this, just, I'm just doing it just because I need to keep the lights on, and if I don't, then I will be not in a great place, financially speaking. Or the things like feeling like you have to get married, and like you have to get married by a certain age, right? It's like, I've had my fair share of like falling in love, being in love with people, and then unfortunately all of those have kind of not worked out for various different reasons. But the idea of where it's like I don't feel I don't feel bad because I'm not married, right? You know, a lot of people have this anxiety where they see everyone pairing up and having kids and things like that, and they start feeling like like I'm falling behind. You know, I have to, if you know, I'm supposed to be doing this by a certain point, and that's whatever. Or I guess I'm kind of all over the place with this, but that's whatever. I'm just trying to think about, because I've been very much aware, especially with like the creation of Thera, my visual novel, and the aesthetic of that. And this ties into thinking about the collage art and like all the collage art pieces that I've made and how those have turned out, and just the very, frankly, the kind of ugly, visceral, surreal sort of aesthetic that they have to them, which is not at all like an aesthetically beautiful or pleasant type of thing, but that feel very meaningful to me, that feel very real to me, and like I created them, and I was, despite how ugly they are, from like I guess if you were trying to take some kind of aesthetics type of perspective into it, where you're trying to like look at something and gauge, is this beautiful? It's like, well, there most certainly isn't. My collage pieces certainly aren't, but nonetheless I'm very, very happy with how they came out, and I wouldn't change anything about them. It's, and just thinking about that same sort of the dark enlightenment I was talking about, that same sort of feeling where it's just like you have become aware of this larger scope of things, or you've become aware perhaps of how out of place you feel in this larger system, or just how fragile all of it is, and the like, or something to that effect. I need to develop this idea more, certainly. I may revisit it in a later episode or something, or write an essay. It's just, I don't know. I recognize how out of place that a lot of my work is, but I have at least some level of engagement with it, which it was never about engagement, right? Social media and like whatever, but it's nice to know that there are at least some people who resonate with the things that I create, and who actually can appreciate them for what they are, and not just say, oh, that's nice, as like a perfunctory, polite acknowledgement of something that I made, because you have to be nice to me because you're related to me, or you're my friend, and you're just trying to, like, oh yeah, cool, haha. It's not anything like that, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you. But yeah, just I will definitely talk more about collage art, because I do have a few points there that I've been stewing on, that I really want to make at some point. But for now, I think this idea has probably, or this episode has gone on probably long enough at this point. But thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.